Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today as we talk about staying innovative while virtual, something that's very much on everyone's mind, I think, these days. We have with us Josh Croke from Action by Design. They will talk to us about solving the challenges of virtual workspaces, um, and we'll have a lot of great information to share. I've worked with Josh a little bit over the last few months as they joined the chamber and as we've gotten to know each other, and they always have really great insight about planning and processes. And so I'm really excited to see what they have to share today. Thank you so much, Josh, for being here today. You will notice at the bottom of your screen, we have a chat box. In that chat box, Josh will share certain pieces of the presentation as they become available, and they will let you know once those things are happening so that you can access those interactive pieces of the presentation. And we also have a Q&A box at the bottom, and if you have any questions, please pop them in there and they will be addressed at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, I will pass the baton to Josh. Thank you again, Josh, for being here today and for being willing to talk to us about these important topics. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thais. And thank you to the Chamber for having me today. And hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I know your time is valuable, so thank you for giving us that today and your energy here as we talk about staying innovative while while virtual, as well as creating a culture of innovation in our workspaces, either remote or in person. So I'm looking forward to chatting with you today. I'm just going to share my screen here as I do have a presentation, and that should pop up in a moment. Great. So today we're going to talk about a handful of things, but I want to introduce myself and share a little bit about me and my journey and how I got into the work that I do. So my name is Joshua Croke. I use they, them pronouns. I am a facilitator of design thinking workshops, as well as community engagement and community building exercises to help cities, organizations, and companies really tap into understanding their audience, whether that's the people that they serve, whether it's their customers, or whether it's the team that they have at home. And I have a bit of a funny trajectory as to how I got into this work. So to start, I actually started in the user experience and information architecture design space for things like IoT products and software and websites. One of the projects that I had the pleasure of working on actually popped up on Oprah's favorite things list this year or last year, which was so cool. It was a smart dog collar. So as a designer in the technology space, we use a very human-centered model to design products and create experiences for people. And as I was getting more involved in my home city of Worcester, I saw an opportunity to really apply that human-centered design mindset to the community development and economic development space in a way that was not just prosperity focused, but also looking at inclusion and equity and sustainability as focus points for how we can create and build our communities. So following the work that I did in the technology space, I started a nonprofit organization called Action Worcester that was focused on engaging our student and broader community population in conversations around how to help the city grow and develop. We have hosted community-wide think tanks, as well as launched the largest mural festival in New England called Powwow Worcester back in 2016. And during that time, really learned about how people are thinking, as well as the importance of engaging people, not only in understanding their challenges and allowing them to express their need areas as it relates to the city, to neighborhood development, but also to make space for and value their input on the solutions that we could build to address those problems. Really believing that residents are the experts of their own spaces, and that being a really kind of focal point to our work. So after I launched Action Worcester and had closed down that organization to kind of refocus some of my own work, I co-founded an organization called Love Your Labels, which is focused on supporting LGBTQ+ youth in the Greater Worcester and Central Mass communities. And again, following kind of our community-centered design strategy that has become my life's work, I guess you could call it. We created programs that specifically worked with youth on resiliency building, pride and identity through creative programs like our Threads program, which uses fashion design as a way to talk to youth about identity, expression, gender, sexuality, and really help them on their pathway of becoming who they are and celebrating who they are now. So now I am running Action by Design, which is a consultancy that's focused on helping organizations engage their teams, their customers, and their community to solve problems with a strong focus on inclusion, equity, and prosperity, and creating cultures of belonging in this work. So we are a community design and innovation studio that works with individuals all the way to large structures like municipal government to tackle really systems level change initiatives and work. But our process for community design can be applied to really solve any challenge. And today I'm going to be talking with you about how to do that in the virtual space, as well as how do we think about creating and building cultures of belonging in our communities. Just 1 second, as I want to make sure that I have the Zoom chat up. All right, so a little bit about the services that we offer at Action by Design. We offer virtual community design sprints, and in the world of the pandemic, we've all had to at some level become virtual in the work that we do. Our community design sprints have historically been action-oriented ways to engage community in problem solving, leading to prototypable solutions. One of the things that we say at the company is we have a bias towards action. I'm sure so many of us sit in meetings where great conversation is had, but there isn't always the follow-up as to what the next step is and what could be realized and actually tested and prototyped to actually address the challenges that we are all facing. We've had to adapt our large-scale community think tank organization and facilitation to the virtual space, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you some of the tools that we use in order to do that. The other thing that we offer is workshops, consulting, and community engagement activities surrounding the question of how do we create cultures of belonging in our workplaces that make people feel valued, inspired, as well as comfortable sharing their ideas with the company, with their teams in a way that is centered around respect, dignity, and belonging. So moving past conversations of inclusion really to belonging, and how do we create environments where people are really enabled to thrive. In addition, we offer technical assistance, visual design, and strategy services that really help organizations and companies tackle challenges. So to talk a little bit more about, to set the stage rather for what a virtual community design sprint is, and we're going to talk about it a little later, but for those who may be unfamiliar, Google Ventures, the Google investment arm, popularized the design sprint for technology companies as this mixture of business strategy, innovation, behavior science, design thinking, all these different mechanisms in engaging people in fruitful conversation that can lead to solutions building. And so we've adapted that concept and that design sprint process and apply it to systems level change work. So if your organization's tackling substantial and like large issues like equity in education, or reimagining public safety, or enhancing community engagement in local government, we've built a process for engaging your team, engaging the communities and people impacted by these systems in the process of identifying a long-term goal, mapping a specific design challenge, which we're also going to talk about today, and then creating and brainstorming possible solutions and how to kind of rapidly create ways to prototype and test that within our spaces. So before we dive into it, I want to ask the question, we're doing a little participant checkpoint, and for those who have never used a tool called Poll Everywhere, I have a Poll Everywhere link that I'm going to share in the chat, just to gauge the question of comfortability with current technology and virtual systems, as we're all at different levels of our, all at different levels of that. So let me try and drop that in the chat. All right, so I dropped that in the chat, and I'm going to set a quick 60-second timer. If people can click on that link and answer the question, I'm going to open right now. And you should see on my screen in the presentation relative to this question related to software and SaaS tools. How comfortable are you? And that'll help us decide how in depth to get in the technology conversation or to move through it a little bit more rapidly. Great. All right, so we're kind of navigating right in the center between getting comfortable using these tools and pretty confident. All right, ooh, here we go. We keep jumping up and down. I don't know if that's someone oscillating between their level of comfortability or if people are still responding, but I think we're in the space of getting there to pretty confident using some of these tools. So I'm going to jump back. I'm going to jump back to our presentation and talk a little bit about some of the ways that Action by Design works with our clients to work successfully in the virtual space. And what's really important here is building your tech stack and committing to it. So what's a tech stack? So developers are going to go into like computer programmers are going to talk about the logistics and jargon of this because it's actually a thing for building technology and software products. But for the business space, I'm going to say it's your toolkit, right? It's what you establish as resources to help strengthen operations. And we do this in a way that's kind of bringing together a bunch of different software tools to help our team and our clients stay innovative while working virtually. So the first one and the biggest one for me is your cloud file and folder share structure, whether this is Google Drive or Microsoft 365 or whatever your team might use. This is a really important one. I'm pretty sure we're all, using this to some capacity. I love Google Drive because of the ease of the Gmail integration, real-time editing and documents, and really convenient share features for individuals. If anyone has any questions as we're going through this, we're going to address all questions kind of towards the end. But if anyone wants to share something in the chat while I'm talking, please feel free to do that. So the second thing that I want to talk about is a team chat system. And this is one that a lot of companies I've found oscillate between engaging in one of these or not. And it's, we use a platform called Slack, which is really helpful because I'm sure we have all been in the situation where we want to go back to, we want to find an email that we sent to a client or a member of our team, but it was about a month ago and we have 8,000 emails that have stacked up and we really want to find it related to a specific project, and it takes your time to kind of go through trying to remember keywords that are in there. Slack is an incredibly robust messaging platform, essentially like AOL Instant Messenger from back in the day. Is a way for teams to communicate. Internally, we only use Slack. So my team and I only use Slack communication unless we're doing anything client facing that we'll use email. And it's an easy way to keep our email decluttered as well as to have conversations. It also allows you to break projects into channels. So if I'm working on an education project with a nonprofit organization in the community, we have a channel for that. So I know that the conversation that we're having relative to that specific project is going to exist in that channel. Conversely, internally, we talk about podcasting. Action by Design hosts a podcast called Experience This Podcast, and all of our team conversation about that project exists in that specific channel, which is really helpful. The next is a project management tool. Monday.com is the one that our team uses, and believe me, I am that person that sits there and, you know, looks at comparison articles and feature reviews between competitors in this space. Monday is extremely intuitive to use, has a lot of prefabricated templates already there for things from, you know, of marketing video project all the way to, you know, what's your trends forecasting for the next, you know, 4 quarters. And it allows for team users, as well as you can invite guest users to specific project boards if you're working on a project between your company and the client, or your team and another department. It's a really useful system. Video calls, welcome to Zoom. Here we are, we're all using it. It's pretty robust in its features. It has a lot of app integrations. It's another reason why Slack is great. All 3 of these products have integrations with Slack, so you can get access to these things and they can interact with each other right in the Slack workspace, which is very, very nice. The next thing is polling and surveys, how to engage people when away, also how to engage and understand what people are thinking about the conversations that you're having in meetings, whether they're, you know, team meetings at the beginning of the week, or you're actually you're diving into a new project. Surveys and polls are incredible tools to help everybody get on the same page, as well as kind of track the data and trends of these types of conversations. We just use Poll Everywhere, which we're going to use a few more times in this conversation. And another is SurveyMonkey, which is a great tool for people to use to build forms and surveys that can be more widely distributed to your network, whether you're looking to engage customers and better understand what their needs are relative to products you're developing or projects that you're working on. It's a fantastic tool. The last one, which people might not be familiar with, is these are becoming a little bit more popular now that we are in the world that we are in 2020, but it's a virtual whiteboard tool. Our team uses Mural, which allows for real-time brainstorming by using virtual sticky notes, live real-time organization of those notes. Everyone who is participating in the Mural board has the opportunity to drag sticky notes and prioritize them. It has a lot of templates for design thinking exercises built into that system. It's very, very useful and helpful. So that's kind of the technology stack that we talk about and that we've built a model around to integrate. If people have questions about how to really build this stack, please reach out to me. My email's in the top right of the presentation, please would love to get in touch and get connected with you and help your team to continue to optimize your process of working remotely together. The other thing that's really important just for businesses to give time for is the learning process, right? Organizations need to commit to specific tools and give their team the time and capacity to get familiar with these tools while also, pushing them to really utilize these. Team adoption is so important for these things to be successful. All right, moving right along. I want to be conscious of time. We're at 12:26. We're here until 12:45, so I'm going to keep on moving. So how else can organizations stay innovative while virtual, also while not virtual? And I think, as a design thinking facilitator, this is kind of the sacred text of my work, but using design thinking in meetings. And I'm going to highlight this really quickly because I do want to talk a little bit more about virtual design sprints and how those can be used to support the development of new products, services, and projects within our organizations. So design thinking in meetings. Set an intention and a goal for each meeting before it begins that is shared with the participants who will be in that meeting so people know what they're going into. Oftentimes it's easy to just assemble a group and say, we're meeting on Monday morning because that's what we do. And if the intention is not there, people will feel disengaged and unprepared for these conversations. A wildly high percentage of people have reported feeling that meetings are pretty much useless. And so that doesn't have to be the case. It just has to have a lot of intention behind them. Speaking of that, item 2 on here, circulate an intentional agenda. Think about, we actually have a agenda template that we use that's inclusive of what are the purposes of each item that you're talking about on this agenda. Are you sharing information? Are you just trying to seek input from your team? Are you looking to make a decision? And does a responsibility need to be assigned relative to a specific item? The more prepared you are going into a meeting, the better the outcome of that meeting will be to move forward the work that you're involved in. The third item, which I think is really important, especially from a brainstorming and innovation focused lens, is everyone jotting down ideas. Everyone comes at a conversation with different aspects, with different specialties and experiences. Your product manager and your computer programmer and your CFO are all thinking different things while sitting in the same meeting. So it's important that they're capturing those ideas in these conversations, but again, always assign one person to take diligent notes for follow-ups. That's another important component. And then the other thing I want to talk about today is encouraging challenges be reframed as questions. Oftentimes challenges can seem like really difficult hurdles to overcome when stated, such as this example, sales is going to have a hard time selling this idea. When framed as a how might we question, how might we explain this project in a way that makes selling it easier for our team? It opens up a conversation. It engages people in a creative mindset to say, how can we answer this question? And it makes challenges seem less like roadblocks and more just like bumps in the road that can be more easily managed. Moving on to virtual community design sprints. This is my passion area, and I strongly encourage, if people are not familiar with the sprint process, regardless of whether you're in technology or you're not, picking up the sprint book that Google Ventures has published is an incredible tool to help teams take action on everything from we need to evolve a program that we're offering, or we need to create a new product to meet a new market need. The design sprint process is a relatively rapid fire way to go about early concepting to testable prototype in just a matter of days. We, as an organization focused on systems level change, have adapted the community design sprint process to be a little bit longer form, depending on the needs of our clients. And I'm going to use an example of a project that we've been working on for the past 6 months, really looking at how might we reimagine juvenile justice. So we're working with an initiative that's asking this question. And we are saying to ourselves, okay, what is the long-term goal here? We're tackling juvenile justice. This is a system that that sits alongside the education system, that sits alongside the criminal justice system. There are a lot of components to this that need to be better understood in order for us to really go about reform or reimagination of this system. So the important thing to start is setting a long-term goal where we've identified that the right youth is in the right place for the right reason. Again, as a human-centered designer, my constant thought is who is being the most impacted by this structure, whether it's the juvenile justice system, whether it's a nonprofit organization looking at working with youth in low-income communities to access technology, which is a huge challenge that we're facing right now, especially in our public school systems, to asking, what is the goal of my company and what is the next 6 months look like for the life cycle of this product that we are building? And so when we frame the long-term goal, it allows people in every meeting, whether it's 2 meetings in a week or 8 meetings over the course of 6 months, that's kind of our North Star and what's guiding our work. Defining your design challenge. Again, this is a really important core and foundational element of having a productive, innovative lens on actually creating testable solutions. And the design challenge is the question that we're asking. We started with the conversation of, how might we reimagine the juvenile justice system, which we realize is a very, very broad, even never mind blue sky, but it's a universal question. So we recognize the need to refine that question down to identify a specific challenge that is a strong pain point in the juvenile justice system right now. So we have come up with and refined our design challenge question to be, how might we ensure a young person's first contact with police and the juvenile justice system is anti-racist, restorative, and developmentally appropriate? It gives us still a wide breadth to create solutions, because we're not saying how can we build a website to do this, how can we create a flyer to do this, but it's focusing the question in a way that allows people coming into this conversation to really think specifically at the interactions between youth and police and the juvenile justice system. And then we move through to make journey maps, which you can see in the bottom right here is, how is a young person experiencing this system? Oftentimes systems level change, it's easy to look at the system itself and forget that it's impacting individuals. So if we map out the path of a young person engaging in the system, the higher likelihood is that we're actually going to be able to find opportunities to really address challenges that have been created by this system and create solutions for that. Considering the time that we have, I do want to get into the next section. So if people are interested in running a community design sprint or a design sprint in your organization, again, please reach out to me. I love having conversations with people about opportunities to improve the products and services that you all offer, and would look forward to connecting with you there. The third thing that I want to talk about, which I am very passionate about, is how do we create cultures of belonging in our workspaces? And this is this is an intersection of diversity, equity, and inclusion discussions that have even more so been amplified given the national climate and conversations going on relative to racial and social justice in our communities. But it's also impacts the ability to truly have a culture of innovation in our workplace. And so that's what I want to talk about for some of our remaining time here. Creating cultures of belonging. Building welcoming, safe spaces for your team. And this is something that, how do we move past inclusion toward belonging? How do we make people not just feel included in their workspaces, but they get excited to be there. They feel like they're part of a broader conversation that impacts the way the culture is created. Diversity goals, fantastic. Now what, right? How does your team feel included? And as a human-centered, community-centered designer, the strongest way that I see this work in companies is by going to those individuals, going to your team and asking them questions and keeping them engaged in the conversation in the long term. You know, for the longest time, I did not think that I could be queer and successful, or an artist and an entrepreneur, because the business community has created so many silos that have made people divide themselves between work and home, which hugely suppresses an innovative mindset. I'm sure so many of us have had experiences where we found out, like, Dave in accounting is also an incredible photographer, or Jen, who runs the education nonprofit we work with, is also an enamel artist. And that second one is actually a legit example from someone that I have worked with, who also is teaching me how to make cyanotype prints, which is so cool. That type of celebration of identity and creating a workplace culture where individual identity is celebrated is so critical to building a creative and innovative workplace. In addition to, you know, the things that people and human resource officers are going to talk about relative to driving retention and really increasing productivity of your workforce. When people feel safe, feel included, and feel valued, they are going to be an incredible, an even more incredible asset to your organization and to your company. So again, I want to frame these statements as questions, because anytime we have a hurdle or we're looking to tackle a new initiative, questions are way more open to creativity and imagination than periods. So engage your team in every step of the process. And this is especially important in the virtual workplace that we are in, the virtual workplaces that we now find ourselves in. How is your team remaining engaged on Zoom calls? How are you giving them the space to feel included and feel like they also are able to balance their work and home life now that they're even more closer together? So frame this question and ask it to your community. How might we build a welcoming, safe space for you here? People have ideas, they know what they need. They just need the platform and the space to be able to express it. Do you feel celebrated for being you? How might we do a better job at this as a company? Companies that are humble are always open to growth and significant opportunity, and especially in the space of design, creativity, imagination, and innovation. And then, are your ideas valued? How might the company become a better listener? These are the questions that we put forward in the work that we do in workplace culture shift conversation. Is, yes, there are some, tried and true practices that can be implemented that we've seen successes in other organizations, but every organization is made up of unique individuals, and those unique identities should be what drives the project work of creating these cultures of belonging, because every ecosystem is unique. And so I want to now pose to you in another little checkpoint here, how might we create a culture of belonging in our workspaces? You might want to reiterate something that I said here. You might want to, you might have other ideas that you want to express. And so this, you can use the same link for the pollev.com that's in the chat. And this is going to pop up a little bit of a word cloud. And so if people, I'm going to put 1 minute on the timer and ask people to submit their responses for how might we create a culture of belonging in our workplaces. What would make you feel more included in the workspaces that you're a part of? Yes, pronouns and email signatures, absolutely. This is an incredibly important one. Great. And I will note, if you want the phrase to be used as one specific term, hyphenate instead of use spaces. It is going to make each separation with a space a different word in the word cloud. But we're seeing here restrictive dress codes, pronouns and email signatures. There is the timer. Great, but feel free. I'm going to add 30 more seconds because I'm loving what we're getting here. Less restrictive dress codes. Absolutely. As you can see on video, I am very passionate about that. Dress codes are forms of oppression, and we need to shift that dialogue and that conversation in so many ways to be more gender inclusive, to consider you know, our racial and ethnic groups, to people who bike to work. I don't own a vehicle, so I walk to work. I walk to client meetings, I bike to them, and while I do wear a dress and 4-inch heels sometimes to get to those locations, most of the time I'm wearing something that's a little bit less quote unquote business appropriate and more comfortable and casual, because biking on an 80-degree day requires a certain type of dress. All right, thank you so much for this input. It is very valued, and I will share this information with the chamber to send out to our attendees today so that you can maybe bring these into your workplaces. All right, 3 minutes to go. So I am going to do a quick recap, and if people have questions, please throw them in the Q&A right now, and we will answer them with the few minutes that we have to spare. So I'm going to pop up that Q&A just in case I don't want to miss anything. All right, so just to recap, how can organizations stay innovative while virtual and create cultures of belonging? Build your technology stack and commit to that. It needs to be prioritized to be successful. Teams need time to learn new processes, give them that space, and check in with your team along the way. What are the pain points that they have? What do they like? What is working? What is not working? Always engage your team through every step of these processes. And speaking of team engagement, using design thinking in meetings. Set intentional goals prior to meetings. Encourage everyone to jot down ideas from their specific role in a project, but also have a note taker. Reframe challenges as questions. Again, this one is huge. Anytime you have one of those roadblocks, ask yourself, are you asking it as a question? And then, how might we create cultures of belonging in our workspaces? Engage your team at every single turn. I hope I've nailed that home. And then celebrate individual identity and expression. This is so critical, and we are, here with the Mass LGBT Chamber of Commerce, so I feel like everyone on this call probably resonates with that, but how do we bring that into the workplace in a way that will be adopted by maybe more hesitant leadership, maybe more hesitant coworkers? How do we build that space? And that's one of the things that Action by Design is really proud of, that we're able to do and offer to organizations and businesses. And finally, encourage ideas and support failure. People need to feel safe and comfortable expressing who they are and what they are passionate about, and the ideas that they have to help the company and the communities that you work with. So thank you so much. If there are any questions, please drop them in the Q&A. We are at 12:45, so I do want to be respectful of time. Thais, I don't know if you want to jump on and say anything else to this group, but I will open a final a poll, because asking questions is what I do, and I'd love to ask, how could I improve this talk and better support you and others in the future? So if you want to click that link and share any feedback with me, I would really appreciate it. Again, thank you so much. I value your time and energy and hope to connect with you all in the future.
Thank you so much, Josh, for being here with us today and for this wonderful presentation. So many great points you made about workspaces and the importance of being able to be who we are and to collaborate in ways that are fruitful. So thank you so much. And thank you for those tools too. There were definitely things for me that are new, and I will explore them and learn more. I think it will be really helpful at this time. So I really, really thank you for sharing those with us today. So again, if there are any questions, folks, please pop them into the Q&A. And if not, we'll just thank Josh for their contribution today and for offering so much great information. Michael, if you have any questions or if you want to jump in, please do. And otherwise, I don't think we have any questions. So thank you so much, Josh, for being here. Thank you, everyone who joined today. And we will see you at our next webinar.